Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and then we can start. All right, perfect. So we just want to welcome everyone to wrapping up tax season webinar with the SBA and the IRS, hosted by the Better Business Bureau serving Eastern North Carolina. And once again, thank you all for joining into this webinar. My name is Luis Feliz, and I am the Hispanic Community Liaison Coordinator for the Better Business Bureau, and I will be your MC for today's webinar. So any questions that you guys have, I'll be the to-go person. You guys can just write it in the chat and I'll be more than happy to assist you. And just to go over some house rules, at the end of this webinar, we'll have approximately 10 minutes for some questions for our specialist. And in the course of the webinar, please make sure that you are writing those questions down, very generalized. We also send an email to the participants just to have some questions ready. And we'll ask at the end. If you want to write it in the chat down, in the chat box, you are able to do so, and you're able to unmute your mics and also ask for yourself. But I want to take this time just to talk about upcoming events and opportunities that we have here at the Better Business Bureau. And we have a BBB Basics, which is a lunch and learn where you can learn more and meet more of the BBB staff and learn how to maximize your accreditation and meet fellow accredited businesses. Whether you're a newly accredited business or you want to learn about accreditation or you're interested in becoming an accredited business, this is a great opportunity and we encourage you to take this time to do so. And this will be on April the 28th, so tomorrow, at 11:30, which you guys can also join. And we're also, for the second one, on May 5th, we are having a Better Your Business Academy informational session. We're taking applications for our 2021 Better Your Business Academy. And we're looking for applicants in all of our 33 counties service area who are eager to learn from local leaders and take their business to the next level. And applications close on May 27th. But we are going to have an informational session on May the 1st where you can learn a little bit more about this program. What is it about, how you can grow your business, and how we can continue to support you. But you guys can visit bbbevents.org to see all this information, or even scan the QR code right here on the screen if you have a smartphone for additional information about everything that we can offer. But without further ado, I will leave you with Mike. He is a specialist with the SBA. And today he's just going to provide some insight on everything that they have to offer and the new PPP loans that you guys are aware of. Mike, you can take it over.
Great, thank you so much. Did you want to share your screen?
Yes, sir, on the way.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much, Luis. And it's great to be here before everybody to give everybody an update on where we are, particularly with PPP, but also a couple of other programs that the SBA has available for folks to help them weather the after effects of the COVID pandemic. Next slide. So we're going to cover a couple of things. I'm going to talk about where we are, and then I'm going to turn to some of the particular SBA programs that have been of service. Next slide. So there were, with this round of funding, back in December, there was about $284 billion approved for PPP funding. Then in March, when President Biden signed the PPP Extension Act, That allowed for an additional 8 billion. So all told, there's about 292 billion for PPP alone. And of course, with the American Rescue Plan, there's other sort of enhancements to our COVID relief programs as well. Next slide. So I'm going to talk about the PPP program, some avenues of debt relief. I'm going to talk about the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, talk a little bit about Shuttered Venue Operators Grant and the new Restaurant Revitalization Grant available for folks. Next slide. But just in terms of top takeaways related to PPP as a result of the Economic Aid Act and the American Rescue Plan Acts, so borrowers can now select a covered period between 8 and 24 weeks. Before it was either 8 or 24. Now it's anywhere from 8 to 24 weeks. Folks that didn't take advantage of a PPP loan last year can now do so this year. And also folks that did take advantage of a PPP loan can go in for seconds, what we call a second draw loan, subject to certain restrictions. You can now deduct expenses that were covered with a forgiven PPP loan on your federal taxes. Before, there was some ambiguity about that. There's an updated simplified PPP forgiveness form for loans up to $150,000. And now, whereas previously SBA needed to require folks to deduct the amount of their economic injury disaster loan advance or free grant from PPP loan forgiveness, now that is no longer to be subtracted. So folks don't get penalized by having the amount of their economic injury disaster loan advance remaining as a loan to be paid. So those are some of the key takeaways as it relates to PPP. Next slide. When the SBA rolled out the new round of PPP funding, we allowed for a 14-day exclusive period whereby the very smallest of businesses, that is fewer than 20 employees, could apply. And there was increased support for sole proprietors, independent contractors, etc. Next slide. Also, very recently, we allowed for folks such as sole proprietors to take advantage of a higher PPP loan amount by focusing no longer on the net income, but on the gross income. That is Schedule 7 versus line 7 versus line 31 of the Schedule C. So that's enabled folks to take advantage of larger PPP loan amounts that can eventually get forgiven. Next slide. We also enabled more applicants to apply for PPP loans by sort of eliminating restrictions on businesses with owners who have prior non-financial fraud felony convictions. There are some allowances for folks who had issues with federal student loan debt. And finally, we're able to permit the use of certain individual taxpayer identification numbers as an identifier for PPP loans. Next slide. So as I mentioned, a first draw loan is for folks who are just going at the well for the very first time with this round. So all kinds of entities that were eligible previously are now eligible. Again, like the big change is your covered period, that is the covered period within which to use your PPP loan proceeds, has been clarified to be anywhere from 8 up to 24 weeks, as opposed to 8 or 24. And folks must now apply on or before May 31st of this year, or until congressional appropriations are exhausted. And after May 31st, SBA has 1 month within which to wrap it up and process every outstanding application. Next slide. So applicants have to comply with certain size standards, not just small businesses, but also 501c3 nonprofit organizations, certain 501c6 organizations, such as chambers of commerce as well. Next slide. And then in terms of a second draw PPP loan, that is, you're coming around for the second time after you got a PPP loan last year. There's a couple of caveats to that. The maximum loan amount is $2 million, and you had to have demonstrated at least a 25% reduction in gross receipts. Chiefly, we look at that 25% reduction to occur between comparable quarters in 2019 versus 2020. You can also take the whole year 2019. And if there was a reduction in gross receipts versus the whole year of 2020, you can use that. Next slide. So in terms of applying for your PPP loan, you can find your PPP lender, first of all, by going to your current bank of account or your current credit union. Those would be the first two best options, because wherever you have bank accounts, your lender is going to be more apt to entertain your loan application because they already have a history with you. Notwithstanding that, you're welcome to check out our lender match tool, which matches you up with lenders that are willing to entertain a PPP loan or even a non-PPP SBA loan. And that's at sba.gov/lendermatch. You complete your application, and then SBA turns around and issues a loan number. And all this time, SBA is communicating with your lender, not with you directly. We issue the loan number to the lender, and then the lender has 10 days within which to disperse that PPP loan. Next slide. If the PPP loan is not 100% forgiven, and let me back up just a second. Just as a refresher, SBA says that provided your PPP loan is used for at least 60% of payroll and related expenses, you can use the remaining 40% for eligible expenses such as rent, utilities, transportation, the cost of personal protective equipment, not just for your staff, but also your customers, and even the cost of upfitting your business to allow for social distancing. For example, putting up protective barriers between booths at a restaurant or putting up one of those transparent shields in front of the cash register. You can actually put the cost of those among your 40% of other expenses, but it provided that at least 60% was spent for payroll and the other 40%, no more than 40%, is spent on eligible expenses, then you can have the whole loan forgiven, right? Now, if there's a certain portion of the loan that is not forgiven, then a fixed interest rate of 1% remains for your loan, and that would be over a 5-year maturity. Next slide. So when you are ready to apply for PPP loan forgiveness, you've gone ahead and finished up your covered period. Again, the covered period being the period within which to use your PPP loan proceeds, then you can start to approach your lender, not SBA, approach your lender to be forgiven for that. And there are forms and processes available for you to make that happen. As the applicant, you make your application to the lender, and the lender goes on the PPP portal to request forgiveness from SBA. Next slide. By the way, I don't know if you caught that bottom. Could you go to the previous slide, please? There is one thing I didn't want to gloss over. Per the CARES Act, forgiven PPP loans are not federally taxable income. So that does not count against you. So a couple of important tax consequences. I said this previously, the expenses that were paid for by PPP loan funds are now federally tax deductible. Before there was some ambiguity about that. Now Congress has clarified that and made it clear. You can go ahead and deduct your expenses, even if they were paid for by PPP loan proceeds, you can deduct that from your federal taxes. And the forgiven PPP loan amounts are not federally taxable income. So next slide. So there's the PPP loan program, which operates through participating lenders, and then you have the ability to get that forgiven. Now there's the economic injury disaster loan, which has been around for a long time, and those are actually direct SBA disaster loans. We've had tons of hurricanes come through the Carolinas over the years, and whenever there's a lot of damage, we make available direct SBA loans, not just for physical damage, but also for economic injury to help folks pay for working capital. Well, we're doing the same thing, but only the disaster that we're faced with is shutdowns and lockdowns as a result of COVID. So we're making this working capital loan available to small businesses and nonprofits of all kinds. Unlike PPP loans, the purpose here is a little bit more broad for working capital. We don't say, oh, it has to be 60% for payroll, et cetera. There's just lots of different sorts of expenses that can be paid for through an economic injury disaster loan, or EIDL, as we call it. This is not forgivable. It is going to be a loan with terms of 3 3/4 or 2 3/4 for nonprofits over 30 years. So that's very favorable loan terms. Next slide. The SBA recently made available the availability to increase your EIDL up to $500,000. Before we kept the loan amount at $150,000, but now we're increasing it up to a total possible maximum of $500,000 per borrower. We've already emailed and communicated with our borrowers from last year to see if they have interest in increasing their economic injury disaster loan. And so we've started to send out those invitations already. Next slide. Also, for SBA loans of all kinds, the SBA is going to pick up the tab for your monthly debt service up to about 3 months, capped at $9,000 per loan per month. We did this last year too. It was a little bit more generous last year. I think we had a maximum of 6 months debt relief. This year, it's going to be 3 months, capped at $9,000 per loan per month. Next slide. Then there's the Targeted EIDL Advance program that we instituted this year. Last year, we said folks that were applying for an EIDL can check the box to see if they wanted a free advance up to $10,000. Due to budgetary constraints and just high demand, we had to kind of put a little bit of a damper on that, and then eventually make available $1,000 per employee. And then, ultimately we ran out of funding. So with this round of EIDL advanced funding, we're going back to all of those that applied last year. And if they didn't get the full $10,000 they were expecting, or if they didn't get anything because the money ran out, we said, okay, we're going to invite you to reapply for this funding. 2 caveats: you have to be in a low income area. And our mapping tool that's online is consistent with what the law requires us to gauge that level of low income status. So that's law, we have to comply with that, and that's why we use that mapping tool. The second thing is we have to demonstrate a greater, at least 30% economic losses, okay? And we kind of judge that based on financial information that's submitted to us. There's nothing that folks need to do. We have already been reaching out directly to all of these folks that received or that wanted to apply for an EIDL advance last year. So we've communicated with them directly, and we've invited everybody, and they just need to make sure that they meet those 2 criteria in order to be eligible. And we've already started funding the first couple of thousand folks who were invited to apply for this. Next slide. And here are some of the items needed to verify your eligibility. So we talked about the fact that you have to demonstrate that 30% reduction in gross income. Federal tax returns, recommended to have that on hand when you're applying. Next slide. And then in terms of the application process, like I mentioned, SBA has already begun to reach out to folks directly, and we've actually begun to start funding these folks. Any application questions, you can send that to targetedadvance@sba.gov. Folks that are approved, you should be receiving an email and an automatic deposit to the bank account that you specify. Next slide. Now, this one's the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. This is for live performance venues, movie theaters, museum operators, et cetera, that have been shuttered as a result of the COVID shutdowns and such. This is free grant money. Up over $16 billion is available. Now, we did open up a portal, but due to demand and a couple of other technical glitches, we had to take that down to sort of retool it and make sure it's up to snuff before we reopen. And we have, in fact, reopened as of yesterday. This is a competitive grant program, so SBA cannot provide individualized assistance or counseling on this particular program. So I'm afraid if you have any specific questions about SVOG, I'm afraid that I cannot answer that because it is a competitive grant program. But you can check out your SBTDC counselor at sbtdc.gov sbtdc.org. That's sbtdc.org. And they would be happy to provide you any assistance you need with this particular program. Like I said, because it's a competitive grant program, I as an SBA employee cannot provide any specific assistance. Next slide, please. Beg your pardon. So here are some of the things that you need to be aware of. You need to register at sam.gov for the System for Award Management. Review the frequently asked questions and such at sba.gov/SBO grant. And some other things, related to whether or not you've been in operation on or after January 1st, 2019. Next slide, please. In terms of cross eligibility on currently available economic relief programs, I think this slide is very helpful. And I think, Luis, you're going to make this available to folks, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm not going to belabor this, but depending upon which programs you're applying for, there might be some restrictions. In some cases, you can apply for both or all three. In some cases, you cannot. But I think that's very helpful if you're looking to find out what are your options. Also, just very recently, we added the Restaurant Revitalization Fund to this. So I would say go to sba.gov/relief for the latest chart that has, which of these you can apply for. And that was just unveiled the other day. Next slide, please. Other things that are available, some of this stuff has just been rolled out within the last day or two, and some of them just today, in fact, so I didn't even have a chance to update this. But soon enough, we're going to be inviting folks to apply for the supplemental targeted EIDL advance. That's up to $5,000 on top of the $10,000 advance. So those will go to folks that were really hard hit. And they have to demonstrate, I believe it's at least a 50% drop in gross receipts. The Restaurant Revitalization Fund is being rolled out this week. We've started as of yesterday to do some webinars on that. This program is targeting restaurants, food trucks, food carts, food stalls, bars, and select bakeries, breweries, and microbreweries, and wineries and distilleries, provided the latter, generates at least 33% of their total gross receipts from on-site public sales. So the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, we're rolling that out right now. And so if you folks are a restaurant operator or in those other categories that I mentioned, not just restaurants, food trucks, food carts, food stalls, bars and taverns, and bakeries, breweries and microbreweries, wineries and distilleries, provided at least 33% of your gross receipts for those last categories consist of on-site sales. So it's a little bit muddled, but go to sba.gov/relief to check out if you might be eligible. And by all means, prepare to apply for that. There's only 28.6 billion, and the common wisdom is that that's probably not going to be enough for all the restaurants in the country that have been hard hit. So make it a point to get educated about that particular program. And then finally, there's the Community Navigator Pilot Program, where SBA is opening up for competitive awards about 100 million in grants for all kinds of technical assistance providers to help the public navigate this labyrinth of federal COVID help. Next slide. Okay, key takeaways. I wrapped up the PPP program. We talked briefly about debt relief available on existing SBA loans. I touched on the economic injury disaster loan. You have until December 31st to apply for those. Talked about the targeted EIDL advance and the supplemental targeted advance. Those are free grant awards that are available for qualified folks. Talked a little bit about the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, which is a competitive grant program for live performance grant venues and the like. And then the Restaurant Revitalization Program, which is being unveiled this week. So next slide. And we have a whole host of resource providers available to assist folks in the state with their COVID relief programs and how to navigate and which one's the best for me and how do I apply. Those would be the Small Business and Technology Development Center. There are 15 of those across the state. There are 10 chapters of SCORE, which consist of mentors, men and women, both retired and still active in business to help. We have the one Veterans Business Outreach Center over at Fayetteville State. There are 4 women's business centers, soon to be 5, with the 5th one to be set up at Winston-Salem State University. And finally, while the small business centers at the various community colleges are not funded by the SBA, we do a lot of collaborative work with them, and they've been just an enormous partner in helping with assisting the public with their COVID relief needs if they're businesses. So you're welcome to check out any of these folks, and you can find out, except for the small business centers, you can locate our resource partners at sba.gov for any assistance there. And then just Google the Small Business Center Network and you can find their website. Next slide. Okay, and then the last slide contains helpful links and phone numbers to contact us at the SBA. 704-344-6563 is our main office number. Next slide. Okay, and with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Luis.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike, for all that information that you have given us. Once again, to our participants, if you have any questions for Mike in regards to PPP or anything that he touched on during his presentation, please be sure to write it down and we will go over it at the end. And we'll have 10 minutes just to ask some questions at the end. But without any further ado, I want to introduce to you Yvette Davis. She is a tax specialist senior stakeholder liaison with IRS.
All right, this is awesome. Can you see my screen and can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome, awesome. Okay. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, depending upon where you are. These virtual things are amazing in that they're able to reach folks in different areas of the world. So good morning or good afternoon. My name is Yvette Davis and I work for the Internal Revenue Service in Charlotte, North Carolina. We are currently at home, like probably many or most of you. So again, I just want to say welcome to everyone, just as Luis and Mike already stated, and I'm just grateful for this opportunity to speak to you all today about different things happening within the IRS, specifically some tax changes, and there are a lot, some updates for the filing season 2020-2021. Just wanted to share some things with you. And hopefully in my presentation, I may even answer some of the questions that Luis shared with us from some of you. And then again, as he stated, we'll have some time at the end to kind of do some chit-chatting and get some questions answered. For those questions that I may not be able to give you a detailed response on today, I will put my name, my contact information in the chat box so that you can take that information and hold on to it and reach out to me at any time. Okay, so again, today I'm going to just share with you a few tax law updates and some changes that's happening, and just kind of touch on also the IRS's perspective on the PPP, as Mike also already mentioned. But let me just start with this. A lot of you, if not all of you, are already familiar with the fact that the tax day has been moved to May 17th. A lot of changes have happened due to the pandemic, and this is just one of those things that the government felt was necessary to do at this particular time. Now, what I always tell my folks is that just because the tax due date changed, that does not mean that any taxes due on that date actually changed. So that's an extension of time to file, not an extension of time to pay. For my small business owners out there, if you are a sole proprietor and you've got estimated tax payments that you are required to make, hopefully you hit that April 15th deadline, which has come and gone, and you're preparing for the next deadline for your estimated tax payments of quarterly tax payments, and that deadline is July 15th. That's the next one. So again, the extension is an extension of time to file, not an extension of time to pay. A lot of folks get that a little bit confused, but if for some reason you need to file an extension, then that's fine. You can do so with the 4868, and that'll give you a 6-month extension through October 15th to get it filed and to pay timely without any interest or penalties. And then I just also wanted to mention this. We always talk about e-file because there are so many people hurting right about now, and they are in need of assistance. So we do have free file through a lot of our partners who will allow those folks who make $72,000 or less to file their taxes at no cost. Go to our website at irs.gov for more information on that. And here I also wanted to mention for my small business owners, for my small businesses, we actually have a small business self-employed tax center. That is the hub for you that was specifically created for small businesses, anything and everything relative to you starting your business, knowing what tax returns to file, maintaining your business, things of that nature. And any information or any benefits for you as a small business owner, you will be able to find it at our Small Business Self-Employed Tax Center. Okay, so now let's go ahead and jump into some of these tax credits that came about due to the coronavirus. The IRS, just as mentioned, as Mike mentioned, there are a lot of tax changes happening today and in the last couple of weeks. And I wanted to kind of bring this one to your attention about the employee retention credit specifically. Some of you may already be familiar with this, but back in 2020, the IRS actually implemented this new tax law where for a small business owner, you may qualify to receive a 50% reduction in your taxes for wages that are the qualified wages of about $10,000 per employee. 50% of that $10,000 would be $5,000, where you would actually be able to deduct that on your employment taxes per employee for 2020. That time frame would be March 12th through January 1st, 2020. For an employee retention credit, 50% of up to $10,000 in wages that you pay to your employees can be deducted from your employment taxes, which means your maximum deduction per employee for the first round of this would be $5,000. In the last couple of weeks or so, there's been an extension of the employee retention credit that hopefully, I don't know if you've heard about this or not, but go to our website at irs.gov and type in employee retention credit to get some additional details about this. This is a great incentive for our small business owners to hopefully help them maintain or keep their employees employed. And as a result of this recent change, specifically, it's called the Tax Certainty and Disaster Tax Relief. You may hear it called the Relief Act. And it basically, again, extends the employee retention credit to where eligible employees can now claim a refundable tax credit against the employer's share of the taxes that employment taxes that have to be paid. Instead of the 50%, now it's increased to 70% of that same $10,000 qualified income of qualified wages paid. So basically, now instead of getting 50% of $10,000, you are allowed to get up to 70% of the $10,000 paid. So that will give you a $7,000 per employee deduction for the calendar quarters, for the first 2 calendar quarters of 2021. Okay, so right now through the end of June, you're set to actually be able to deduct $14,000. Okay, so it's $7,000 per quarter through June 2021. All right, that's the second phase of the employee retention credit that they just introduced. So if you don't have a tax professional on your side, you don't have a tax accountant or someone that's helping you with all of this, please, please, please find someone that you can trust, someone who can help you navigate these waters, because this information is out there for you and it can actually help save your business, can actually put money in your pocket, because remember, this is a refundable tax credit. So talk to your tax professional about how this can apply to you and your business. The other part I wanted to talk to you about, and I think Mike mentioned this as well. If your business received first round PPP loans, you may have the option now to deduct eligible expenses from taxes. Back in the beginning, when this was first introduced in 2020, you're right, Mike's right. There was a lot of ambiguity around what can be deducted, what shouldn't be deducted, things of that nature. So now the IRS has gone in and we posted a lot of great information, and it's changing every day about what is allowed to be deducted. So some businesses actually may have had business deductions that they were not able to deduct from that original first round. So now you can go back and actually deduct those expenses. And I think Mike mentioned several of those expenses like the rent, utilities, or mortgage. And this is something additional that I didn't read in the first Tax Act, where now if you've got any type of property damages related to public disturbances that's not covered by your insurance, that is now deductible as well. And you can use your PPP loan to cover the expenses to fix up or to repair your property, your business property, because of some type of vandalism or things of that nature. The other thing that was not in the very first was they're now giving you allowances, or you can actually use that PPP and get a deduction for supplier costs for materials that you may have to purchase for your business. And Mike, I think, mentioned the protective equipment for setting up your business for COVID compliance. Okay, those things are deductible. For those folks who may have already filed that 941 for last year, and hopefully you have, because you should have, you can actually go back in and gain these expenses or get the benefit of this. And you may have to talk to your tax professional about completing a Form 941X, and that's just an amendment to your 941, your quarterly tax return. Okay, so again, a lot of benefits there for you folks. And if you don't have someone in your corner as a tax professional, please find someone to help you out, because there's a lot of money on the table to be saved, and hopefully that will help save your business, or at least help put some money back into your pocket as a business owner. This is something that just came about in the last few days. Eligible employers, like small business owners, even tax exempt organizations, as long as they have fewer than 500 employees, they can actually receive a tax credit for providing paid time off to their employees who are receiving the vaccine, or who need additional time to recover from taking the vaccine. Again, this is a paid credit for you as an employer, allowing your employees to go get the vaccine and then recover from the vaccine. And this is a part of the American Rescue Plan of 2021. Again, this is something that was just posted in the last couple of days. So please take a moment, go to our website at irs.gov/coronavirus, or you can do a search for the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. A lot of great information. And this particular tax credit is relative to the time frame of April 1st through September 30th, 2021. All right, this just posted in the last couple of days. All right. Then I wanted to mention the work opportunity tax credit. This is something hopefully you've all heard of in the past. It was set to expire the end of 2020, but they've now extended it through December 31st, 2025. And this is just a tax credit for those small business owners who actually take a chance and hire those folks who are in a targeted group of folks who may have, for example, have had, for one reason or another, had long-term bouts with unemployment. There is also an opportunity to use this to get a credit for those folks that you hire who may be veterans, for example, even those folks who may have previously been an inmate or prisoner. If you hire those folks, that is the targeted group, a part of the targeted group that will qualify you for this work opportunity tax credit, along with people who may be on public assistance. If you give those folks a chance, hire them, then you may qualify or be eligible for a work opportunity tax credit. And again, this has been extended through December 2025. So talk to your tax professional about this and see whether or not this is something you can take advantage of once again. Okay, I did want to mention this part with identity theft and unemployment benefits. We've seen a lot of our small businesses directly impacted by cyber criminals, identity thieves, and this is something that's affected a lot of folks, so much so that sometimes they can't come back from it. They lose their businesses because of this, because they're unable to kind of unravel from a lot of things. One of the things that the cyber criminals realize or think is that our businesses, our small businesses, are not as prepared for those types of attacks, just like the larger corporations. So I always take a moment to talk to my small business owners and say, hey, make sure you've got some type of security in place, multi-factor authentication, things of that nature that will help you protect your information, your employees' information, your customers' information. All of this is a great target for those criminals because they are looking for an opportunity to steal your information so that they can actually use that to put money in their pockets. By creating a brand new 1099-G, for example, saying that your employee actually received unemployment income from a state that they don't even live in or they've never even received income from. If they have your information, they can actually create these W-2s, they can create 1099s, they can create different things that will actually cause havoc in your lives. So make sure you protect yourselves, protect your business, protect your clients. Anything relative to the unemployment, if you have employees who come to you and say, hey, I received this 1099-G, what is this unemployment information? What is this all about? Direct them to the state, direct them to the state of North Carolina so that they can get some assistance with that. If you go to our website, you can actually find a list of state contact information so that you can get some assistance in guiding them to get that corrected so that they can actually correct that information so the IRS is not looking to them to report unemployment income that they actually did not receive. And just a little side note here, more than 70% of our small business owners are hit annually with cyber criminal activity where they've stolen their employer identification numbers, created these W-2s, 1099s, and things of that nature. So please, please, please take it seriously and be vigilant about protecting your business. This I wanted to just kind of mention because the IRS has made it a priority to make sure we are reaching out to the masses. And because we have become a diverse culture, the IRS is striving to make sure that all the information that they share meets the needs of those in need of that information. And that includes different languages. So we've expanded our multilingual platform. We've expanded our multilingual initiatives. So if you have business owners that you work with, or those business owners, if you're a business owner and you speak another language, please check out our website because we've got a lot of information in there. And that information can actually be translated into more than 20, I believe it's up to 20 plus languages now. So make sure if you have a need and it's in a different language, please understand that we're working on this, and we're doing our best to provide the information you need on the business side of things and the individual side of things to give you the information you need in the language that best suits you. When you go to our website and type in languages, the screenshot on the left is just a snapshot of our welcome to language pages, right? And the one on the right, this is just the list of the languages that taxpayers can choose from. And this is where you can find information to pay your taxes, to file your taxes and in your particular language. Additionally, we have expanded our over the phone interpreter services. This is something that a lot of folks didn't even realize we actually had. This includes a couple of the telephone numbers that you can dial to get information or to get help in your specific language. The first one, 800-829-1040 if you need assistance in Spanish, and for all of the languages, 833-553-9895. And this is for individual assistance as well as business assistance, okay? So please share this information and let everyone know that we do have an over-the-phone interpreter. These services are available at no cost. And then finally, language preferences for the first time ever. Form 1040 and the Form 1040 SR for our seniors is available. They're both available in Spanish. The IRS also has a new schedule, LAP, and this is basically the form that folks should use if they have a different language that they prefer for the IRS to communicate to them in. And all you do is complete this form, send it in, and you can change your language preference from English to Chinese, okay? And of course, my cute little puppies here. Which one is real? Can you tell? All right. There's so many, and I don't think that there's probably anyone on this line who hadn't received a phone call from someone impersonating the IRS. That makes it so hard to call folks in my position as an outreach education specialist. And it's just kind of weird to think that there's someone out there pretending to be the IRS. 33 years ago, no one wanted to be an IRS employee. So why would they want to? But anyway, they're doing it because it is profitable. There are imposters out there trying to intimidate these folks into giving up personal information. And you all know, please understand and please know that the IRS is not going to hit you on your DM to ask you for any financial information, okay? They're not going to send you an email, say, hey, click this link to get to update your tax returns, or to or send you an email or phone to give you a phone call or anything of that nature to say, hey, we need your personal financial information. They're not going to do that. If you owe taxes, you will know this, and you're not going to find out from the IRS by a phone call. They are going to send you up to 4 letters. The first letter that they send you, certified, is going to be really, really nice. The fourth one, not so nice. Okay, so you're going to get an actual letter to let you know that you owe the IRS. It's not going to be an email, folks. And so anything, anytime you see something that looks a little weird and it's coming from the IRS, please know, I think I'm doing something weird here, that it's, let's see, let me try this, resume slideshow. Yeah, so please know that it's not the IRS. And if you think that, if you're not sure, hang up on whomever's calling you and call the IRS directly for yourself. Okay, please do that. All right. And speaking of identity theft, continue with that, the IRS has an IP PIN, or identity protection PIN. In the past, you had to be a victim of identity theft in order to qualify for this. But because this thing is not going away, the IRS has actually made it an option. So you can opt in to actually receive an identity protection PIN, which will be required for you to file on every single tax return moving forward. And that would be the only way anyone can process your tax return, is if you put that IP PIN on that return. Okay, very quickly, I just wanted to mention, for those folks who may be using an I-10, make sure it has not expired. Go to irs.gov/I-10 for more information. For you business owners out there, if you change your business address, move, anything happens, anything changes with your business, please, please, please do the 8822 to notify the IRS. If we're sending you correspondence to the last known address and you don't get it, there may be something very, very important in there that you need to have or receive. And if we don't have the current address, then you're not going to get that notification. And then this is just a list of some resources that we actually have online for you. And we've got the interactive tax assistance to answer different tax laws. Where's my refund? Pub 17, we used to distribute this huge book with publication 17. Now it's virtual, it's online. And then lastly, for your information, you can actually go on, and this is just for individuals right now, you can actually view your account online to see what the IRS sees. This is another way you can combat those identity thieves who try to reach out to you and take your information. You can confirm yourself what the IRS actually has as far as any balances due, or last return file, or if you want a transcript, things of that nature, you can actually view your account online. All right, Luis, I am done.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yvette, for all that valuable information to you and Mike. We're going to leave this opportunity and leave it open for some questions from our participants. Do you all have any questions for Mike or Yvette? You guys can either type it in the chat box or you can unmute yourself and ask the questions directly to them.
For that American Rescue Plan where you get paid, the IRS is giving you for paid time off for getting vaccinations, is this a refundable credit? How does that work?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. Yes, so yeah, this is also something that just came out a couple of days ago. So yeah, it is a refundable credit, but this is a credit that you're going to apply towards your employment taxes, just like with the employee retention credit. Okay.
So it's an employee employment tax.
Employment tax.
Is it just the tax on that time, or is it the whole amount? In other words, somebody goes for an hour for COVID test, $50 an hour. Is it $50?
It's gonna depend, and the answer to that is going to depend on, is going to be different for every employer. So it's going to depend, I mean, because you're going to pay some folks $12 an hour, but you need to talk to your tax professional to find out exactly how you can apply that to your particular business. Again, this is something that just came out a couple of days ago. So you really need to go to our website at irs.gov and type in those keywords and just kind of follow that. I don't want to give you the wrong information. So right now, talk to your tax professional about how it can apply to you and your business, and the best way to get the maximum amount possible for your employees. Because for example, we are with the IRS, we are allowed 4 hours. Okay, but that is our rule. That we're allowed 4 hours to go get the vaccination and with paid time. Okay, but that's our rule. So each business may have a different type of rule. So you're gonna have, I can't tell you how to apply that rule. So
one last question on this: is it limited to small businesses, or this for all businesses?
This one is for those folks under 500 employees.
500 employees.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you. Great question. We have time for one more question. And in case we don't get to your question, Yvette has put her email address. So did Mike. You can please reach out to them directly for those additional questions. But we have time for one more short question. Cool. So Yvette, I had a question here. What is the most common employer plan small business owners can utilize to help reduce taxes and save for retirements?
Yeah, I saw that question, and again, that's one of those questions that I cannot answer. I think what they're saying is, or asking about, is maybe some type of business structure, and whether or not it's best to be a partnership or an S corporation, or um, a sole proprietor, because all of those things, the business structure that you choose is going to determine how much tax you pay, how many, your tax requirements, and things of that nature. So it's just going to depend, and you're going to need to make that determination with someone who can actually look at the entire picture of your business to help you determine what that looks like and the best route to go for you. We do have on our website a virtual small business workshop. And that is a workshop that will take you from A to Z, and it's going to give you all of the details about choosing a business structure. It's going to talk to you about the retirement plans from A to Z. It's going to give you some details, some options that you can choose. But again, I'm not allowed to tell you what's best for your business. You need to talk with someone who can see the full picture of your small business. But go to our website at irs.gov and look at videos. It's irs.gov/videos, or you can go to our website, irs.gov, and just type in small business tax workshops. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And once again, to all of our participants, their information is in the chat box. Just locate it, copy and paste it onto, and just reach out to them. But once again, thank you for joining BBB Lunch and Learn with Yvette Davis with the IRS and Mike Ariola with the SBA. And I just want to encourage you one more time just to visit bbbevents.org to know all of the events that we have up and coming that can benefit you, your business, and also our community. But once again, guys, thank you so much for your time and participating. And thank you, Yvette and Mike.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
Luis.
thanks so much for having us. Thank you, Yvette. Thank you, Luis.
Thanks. Good to see
You're
you.
Thank
welcome.
you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.